Well, good evening. My name is Jim Kello. Welcome to NixTrainz. This is where mentors can help modelers build. If you're new to the show, I hope you'll go to our website, newtracksmodeling.com, and subscribe. You'll get an email, and if you'll confirm that the email is yours, then you'll be registered properly, and you'll get all of the future notices about our show. And all of the login information for the shows without having to worry about that. If you would like to pass this information along to one of your friends so they can join us, we have no problem with that. We just ask you please not to post it on a public forum for security reasons. If you'd like to participate in the show in some way, send me an email. My email address is on our website, and I'll be glad to hear from you, and we can talk about what you'd like to do on the show and have some fun doing it. Let's see here. We've got two build-alongs tonight. Rick and Maureen Hunter are doing their Hunterline 81-foot trestle. Martin Brechbiel, MMR, is building his maintenance of way car from Leadville Designs. Some upcoming ones that I think that you're also going to enjoy. October the 13th, Jim Murphy is going to start building LaBelle Woodworking Company's business card kit. He's building it in O scale. It also comes in HO. All of these, by the way, the detailed information is on our website, the amount of discount that you're provided and so on. And we hope you'll go to the website and find out the details. We hope you'll purchase one of the kits, and we hope you'll build along with the modeler. Keep in mind, if these build-alongs really provide you with your own personal mentor, he's going to be building the same kit that you are, and he can answer your questions and give you his advice and tips that you won't find, just trying to do it by yourself. So we hope and encourage you to do it. That's the reason that we do these in the first place. Then October the 6th, Bill Davis is going to start building his rail scale models, Tobacco Barn. November the 6th, Dave Schultz is going to build the All Nation Waffle Side Boxcar Kit. And we've got some others coming up. One I want to mention is Motrak. Motrak, Jeff Adam is giving a 15% discount off of his kits, and Jeff is here tonight. So Jeff, would you like to talk about the kit a little bit?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I can do that.
Okay.
I guess I'll share my screen.
Jeff's been trying to send me an email of what the kit looks like. I haven't been able to get the email, so he's the one that's got the information, and I'm hoping to be able to share it with you because he starts his build along, and this is in all four scales, N, HO, S, and O scale. And it's going to be a station, and I think you'll really enjoy it. The reason that we're going to have four different modelers build this in the four different scales is so that you can see whichever scale you might be interested in, or maybe even you're considering changing to a different scale, what's involved in building exactly the same kit in four different scales. The techniques that may be different, the procedures that may be different, or maybe not, but you'll be able to see it and you'll be able to hear the modelers talk about it. We've got four great modelers doing it. Phil Edholm is doing the O scale. Bob Farquhar is doing S scale. Greg, you'll have to forgive me. I don't have it in front of me. Greg Cassidy is doing the HO scale, and Clark Kooning, MMR, is doing the N scale. So you've got four really talented modelers building the various models. And Jeff, now I'll turn it over to you to talk about your model a little bit.
All right, now you guys can see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so this is the Adamsville Depot. As you can tell, it does come with shake shingles. It's what everybody wanted. So there they are. This HO scale is 3.8 inches long by 2.25 inches wide. And then for the rest of the scale, you just have to add to it. But basically the HO scale is $30. This is retail price. HO is $30, N scale is $25, S scale is $45, O scale is $55. If you place an order, you'll get 15% off on this model.
Do they need to say that they're from NixTrainz or any code word for you, or just order the kit?
They're just going to order. I'm going to discount the price on the website. It will already be discounted, so anybody could buy it. I will have the HO scale version at the Timoleum Train Show this coming weekend. So they could, they don't have to place an order. They could just pick it up at the train show.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that's wonderful that you're going to discount it for everybody. But I'm kind of hoping that you're going to give the people from NixTrainz something special for it. So how about 20% or 25% for the NixTrainz modelers?
Well, if I do that,
I think that's only fair.
I think what Jim is saying is instead of making it a general 15% discount, make it 20% for folks that put a NixTrainz code in or something like that, and let the public have it at the other price.
I think it's important that this is a NixTrainz program, and we're trying to promote your business and your models as much as we possibly can. And the people that are on the show that are building the models, I'd like to see them get as great a deal as we can possibly get for them.
Okay. No, I can do it. I can set it up. Well, give me about an hour, and I have the website. So the code will be NixTrainz.
Okay.
Right.
What would be the discount? 25?
20.
20. Okay.
20. All right. So NixTrainz, right? That's with an S, right? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So the code will be NixTrainz. So they will get 20% off.
Great. I appreciate it, Jeff, so very much. And the two people from Canada, Clark and Bob Farquhar, are really worried about if they're going to be able to get their kits in time.
Well, I'm going to try, I have the show this weekend. I'm trying to get their kits out next week.
Okay, because we're doing this on the 20th.
Yes.
And the people that are ordering the kits now, I anticipate there are going to be some from Canada and some from other parts of the world. So I'm just trying to make sure that, they'll be able to get their kits and so forth.
Now, can we ship to Canada? Because I remember one time we couldn't, but can we?
Yeah, as far as I know, you can ship. It takes a while. They may be hung up in customs for a week or so. That's why Bob and Clark are so concerned, because they want to get building on it before they have to be on the show showing the build.
All right, so Clark's doing what, the O scale?
N scale. Bob is doing the S scale.
Yeah. So Jim, if we're delayed, we'll come up with a shuffle to fill in for a couple of shows, and you can extend it on the back end, I think.
Well, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to start on the 20th of October. And I hope everybody has their kits, and I hope everybody can be ready to go. Okay, listen, Jeff, thanks so very much. I really do appreciate the help, and so I appreciate you being here this evening. The next My Build that we have is October the 27th. And Chris Corks is the moderator of it. So if you'll send your information to Chris, he'll make sure you get on the program. And we had a great one last show, I think. Had a lot of people. I'm really happy about that. That's part of what this show is all about, participation and seeing what you build. I mean, we've got some really, really, really talented modelers that are on the show, and I'd really like to see what you're building. So thank you so much for doing it, and thank you so much for showing us last week, and look forward to you doing it again October the 27th. If you've got a modeling question, we've got a form on our website. All you have to do is ask the question, and I guarantee you will be answered. We had one question that came in. I'm not prepared again, naturally. And this came in from if I can get it open, from Jim Rudd, R-U-D-D. And he said, I'm a new modeler in N-scale. I've installed some under-track magnetic uncouplers, but can't get them to work. Do I need to install new special couplers on my rolling stock? Is there a video or something that discusses this? Thanks for your help. Well, the only N-scaler that I really know is Clark Kooning. And I called Clark, and Clark was kind enough to contact Jim. And I have asked Clark tonight to try to put something together that would be really basic for N-scalers on how to install couplers and so forth. Clark, would you like to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I can. And Jim, thanks for the question. You and I have been emailing back and forth. And I will do a little video on it. One of the things.
Clark, do you want to turn your video on?
I could. It's just me.
There we go.
Just me. So I will try and do something for you, Jim, and we can talk about some of the differences in N-scale and some of the questions I asked you, and I was actually going to send you another email tonight. If you have the KD, and that's actually, it's called Micro-Trains in N-scale. If you have the Micro-Trains cars that you've purchased, then they have the standard of couplers on them. In some of the other cases like Atlas, they kind of put a faux coupler in there. It looks better than the old Rapido, which is basically just that hook that a lot of the old N-scale cars had. So we'll go over all that. And if you have any more questions, you can just email me that. And hopefully by next Wednesday, I'll have a little video on N-scale couplers for you.
Fantastic. We look forward to it, Clark. And thank you so much for corresponding with Jim. And Jim, thank you again for the question. As I say, we'll go out of our way to try to answer your questions. I know that there are a lot of people that I won't say that they're new to model railroading. They may not have been involved in model railroading for many years. And if you've been away from the hobby for a long time, it's amazing how much the products have changed and how much the technology has changed. So it's totally understandable that you've got a lot of questions because a lot of the products that are available today weren't available 15, 20 years ago. So please ask your questions and we'll do everything that we can to try to get you an answer. As I said last time, NixTrainz has been accepted in the Hobby Manufacturers Association. And one of the things the association does is promote all hobbies. And they recently sent out a notice to all of the members of a new video that they produced on YouTube. And I'd like to show you that video tonight because to me, this is what the Manufacturers Association really is all about, best I can tell. I'd also like to say that I know that Rick Hunter asked a question last meeting about why a Canadian firm was not allowed to join the Hobby Manufacturers Association. That has been cleared up. They are allowed to join the association. And by now, Rick, I think you should have received a personal invitation for membership from the executive director. So I hope that settles the issue because this is open, the association is open worldwide to any firm that wants to participate. And frankly, from the comments that I've had so far from some of the members, I'm looking forward to participating in it. So here is their video. Phil, if you could run it for us.
Where do you want to go today? Finding a hobby is just the beginning of the journey, and the HMA has a path for every adventure. Launch a rocket to the stars. Build an entire city around your model railroad. Build a model engine and see how it works. Pilot a plane. hit thrilling speeds at the controls of a race car. The HMA offers products for every imagination, along with the tools and paint for you to customize them to your vision. The possibilities are limitless. Visit myhobbyfun.org to learn more.
So I hope that you'll consider that organization if you're a manufacturer. And I look forward to having some of the manufacturers on the show in the future. I'm going to invite them. And whether they're model railroaders or not, if I think that they have products that can be beneficial to you, then I'm going to invite them on the show. And I think that you'll see some manufacturers that you may not have thought that you wanted to do business with before. At least I think you will. Now I'd like to turn to our quick tip for the evening. And we have a guest quick tipper, Clark Kooning, MMR, that has a video that he's going to run. Clark?
All right. Well, it's actually not me. It's actually Paul. Hold on. Please hold. Share screen. Everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay. We're just going to go to the big picture here. There we go. So this is Paul Thomson with Steve Wood on the quick tip of the night. Aren't these two guys fine?
Quick tips for this evening. I'm Paul Thomson, and tonight I'm going to show you something from location in beautiful Elliott Lake at Clark Kooning's. And Clark showed me this nifty little idea that he got off the internet, and we'll show you all about that. But it's a locomotive test track, rack, whatever you want to call this thing. Steve, my friend, is with me. And Steve, if you can give me
There's an
a
engine for you.
locomotive. Thank you, Steve. And as you can see, these rollers slide back and forth. So you can line up rear axles, which we'll do right now. And now we've got the locomotive on. Thank you, Steve. You need electricity. So we're going to use an alligator clip and put it on, putting electricity through. Of course, you need the other one on the other side, but we're not going to go there right now. The other thing you can do is modify this thing by putting an extra screw or washer or terminal at the end, and then it's ready to go anytime you want. And this thing is so slick because it's price effective for a locomotive stand. And that's the quick tip for this evening. Thank you. Welcome to quick tips for this evening. I'm
Please
Paul Thomson,
hold. We
and
have a
tonight I'm-
technical function here. I wanted to give you the eBay information on that, and I think they're like 1995, those pieces.
What scale do they come in, Clark?
Only an HO, unfortunately.
Okay.
But
No, that's not true. They also come in ON30.
okay. Yes, they do. But it was a great little find. A friend of mine who has actually been on the show before, Lawrence, put me onto this, and I got one, and it showed up in about 10 days. I thought it would come from China, but actually it came from some place in the United States. And I got it for, I think it was like $24 in Canadian funds. So it may have gone up. I don't know. I haven't checked the price on the eBay, but for that kind of price, to have a test roller for HO was just fantastic. And Paul thought it would be a great quick tip for tonight.
Thanks so much, Clark. I really do appreciate it. Now let's turn to our special segments, our build-alongs. The first one we have two tonight. First one we have is Rick and Maureen Hunter with their 81-foot Trestle Hunter Line kit. Rick, Maureen, help. Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Maureen's here too.
Yeah.
We're Rick and Maureen from Hunterline in Cambridge, Ontario. And our build along that we've been doing now for a couple weeks is our 81-foot trestle bridge. Usually you don't get time to build a trestle bridge anywhere. That's why we have lots of homework on this one. You can see I got to do some switching of cameras. I also have to apologize for our bandwidth. Our bandwidth, we're in the city, but we live way out in the sticks, and our bandwidth is very low. And that's why it's always intermittent. So let me do some switches here and we'll see what we can do.
I'm going to take the other camera.
And according to everybody else, we have to take the other camera off.
Didn't you just, okay. Got it? No.
I think we are.
Oh, we are here?
Yeah, I think we're good.
We're good?
Thanks for
Okay.
all the techie guys at NixTrainz for helping us through all this. It's our bandwidth. We can't do anything about that. So you just have to bear with us and we'll just get by somehow. If we're a little jerky, okay.
Okay. So tonight we're going to finish up the abutment wall that we started last week and put the girts in and start some of the sway braces. So you should have, your trestle should be looking pretty much like a trestle. You should have all your bents glued on and you should have one abutment wall. It's kind of hard for me to show this, isn't it?
Mhm.
I did put 2 girts in already, but I'm going to show you how I did that. But you can see on your abutment wall, oh boy, I don't know how to show this.
Let's just
Can you take that off?
bend it a
maybe?
little bit like that.
That's perfect. Thank you.
There.
Okay, you've got a little bit of a space here from your, at least I do, on my abutment wall. I'm going to add some planks, probably just below that tie. Okay, so I'm just going to bring it up the stringers. I filed those stringers so that they were sort of flush with the tie. Okay, so I'm just going to add some glue on those stringers and along the last post on the abutment wall. And then, okay, where are we here? I got to see what I'm doing. I'm going to put one little bit of glue all the way along the plank, so it attaches to the plank below it. And I'm going to stick that on there. And I've got lots of excess glue, so I want to get rid of that. I'm just using my fingers here.
One of the reasons we put the planking up to the stringers is so that the earth doesn't fall down in there. You can see it as it is. It's going to have a little crack there. That's normal.
So there I added 2 planks to that abutment wall. So it's just sitting below that tie. Okay, so that's done. That abutment wall is done.
Okay, now we're going to do what we call the girt. I got asked last week, where did the word girt come from? And off the top of my head, I thought a girder. And actually, one of our listeners got back to me and said that it is a girder and it comes from the word girdle. So that's why it's called a girt. I guess it's supposed to hold everything together.
Okay, so you need to get your 6x10. That's what your girts are. There should be 4 of them. Okay, you'll have some lumber left over. So what you want to do is put it on your side view drawing of the trestle, and you want to butt it up against, that's the retaining wall there. So you want that end of your girt pushed right up against it. Okay, and then go to the other end. I know you're not going to be able to see this unless, Rick, you can show
Unless you
that.
want to
But you're,
move it along.
yeah.
and cut it here.
Okay, can do that.
There we
So
go.
I'm doing the same thing on the other end, just butting it up against that retaining wall. And I'm just gonna cut it right there. Okay. And I've already cut the other one. I'm just gonna make sure that they're both the same size. Got one a little bit longer. So I'm just gonna file mine down using the Ultimation sander. Or you can just use the file. But this little machine is great. I've got it at the 90 degrees. I'll take a little bit off there. I need to get those clamped to my board. So they're perfect. They're lined up, equal size.
The difficult situation here is where the actual placement of the girt. The girt goes through the second post in from the outside. We're just going to quick flip drawings here.
Yeah. If you look at your abutment view drawing, you can see you've got the girts here.
It goes on the second post in. And the other thing is, because this post is on an angle, you glue it to the angle, not necessarily glue it to here. Okay, so you glue it against there, and you'll see when you thread it through all the bends, it'll sit on top of one of the cross braces.
Yeah, you can see that in this drawing of your side view. You can see the girt here, and it's sitting on top of the braces there. Okay, so I might need some help with the camera here, Rick.
Yep.
We know that I'm just going to test it. I'm going to put it through. You put it through the say that. Tell me how to say that, Rick.
The bigger dimension goes up and down.
Okay, the bigger dimension goes up and down.
No, next one. Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Thought you were doing the other one.
Yeah. So you want to just thread it through. I don't know if you can see that.
This is why it was important that the bents all be aligned.
Okay.
And this
there's
is
a
why
better-
you didn't put that end retaining wall on, so you can thread these through.
So you can see that second post. And I'm putting one on each side, follow it all the way through, right to the abutment wall. And I'm just testing to make sure that that's going to be okay. I've got my second abutment wall that I have to add after they're glued together. And I'm just testing to make sure that they're going to fit. And I think they will fit. Yeah, they'll be okay. I don't know if you can see that. Because you want your abutment wall to be flush with the stringer. And the girts just fit inside there nicely. Hard.
Okay, how are you going to glue those girts in place?
So I'm going to take them right out. It's a lot. I find it a lot easier if you just take them out, get them out of place. If you've got, if you're using a Q-tip or something else to put your glue on, that's great. Or if you've got one of these little bottles, you can tip on. They're perfect. So what I do usually is I'll start at the abutment wall end. Rick, if you can just follow me, maybe make sure. I'm going to dab a little bit of glue on each side of that second post. Okay. All right. And just follow along. Go to the next post, put a little bit on there.
You see how it's going to sit on top of this the brace on the other direction.
Yeah, and you can put a little bit on that brace too. And the next one, a little bit on the brace. There. You okay there?
Yeah.
Okay. And the last bent. So you want to put, not a whole lot of glue, but a little bit more than what you might usually do. And then take your girt. I'm going to start with the inside one. And what I'm going to do is dab a little bit of glue. I'm trying to find the camera. A little bit of glue on just the end of that girt, so it will stick to the retaining wall of that abutment wall. And I'm going to stick it through. Try not to touch the glue as you're going in. And butt it up against that second post of the abutment wall. See if you can see that where I've got it. You see that? I've got it right up against the retaining wall, that second post. Okay, so then take your next one and slide it in. All the way down to that second post again. So I've got them both in there. Now what I'm going to do, I've got a little bit of glue on the girders as I put them in, but I'm not going to worry about that. Not right now anyway. What I want to do now is put some clamps on those. So the easiest way is to turn it upside down. Actually, I find that easiest. And let's just get this camera down here. So I'm going to start at this end, and I'm just going to make sure that they're in place. And I'm going to put this little clamp in there. These are great little clamps.
Don't clamp it in the middle, clamp it as close as you can to the bent.
Yeah. Just making sure that
If you clamp it in the middle, it's going to distort it.
make sure the girts are against those that second post, and they're resting on the brace. So I've got 2 clamps on. Just coming here to the third, pushing it against that second post. Put that clamp on. And down to the next one.
If you don't have any of these little clamps like that, you can use an elastic band.
And then the last one. There. Okay. I see a bit of glue here that I'm going to take off. Kind of got it on my girder as I was sliding it through. So you want that to set up. Get it as dry as you can. And then what you're going to do is put that second abutment wall on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I know this isn't set up yet, but we're going to give it a shot. So again, take your abutment wall, making sure that you've got the abutment post facing the inside of the trestle, and your retaining wall is going against your embankment or wherever it's going to be. And you want to make sure that they're going to fit. Just try that again. And so it looks pretty good.
You can note where all the glue contacts are going to be.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is take my glue again on the second post from the end of this wall. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on each side, a little bit on the bottom too. And here and on the bottom. And I'm going to put some glue on the
underside.
And the underside too.
Yeah.
So at the ends of each of the girts and a little bit underneath. Oops. Okay. All right, so let's put that abutment wall on. All right. Second post in. Squeeze it in there. And this one here, I'm just going to kind of see where the stringer is going to be attached to the upper sill of that abutment wall. So right about there. Just try to have it flush. Kind of hard to make sure that you can see all this happening.
You could, yeah. It
You're
was good.
okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to use a couple more clamps. Bring myself, so I'm going to take 2 of these off. It should be okay. So I want to put 2 clamps. I think I'll go upside down. Okay, and put 2 clamps, just as you did on the other bents. Okay. So it looks good, I think. All right. I think the abutment wall is pretty flush.
Yep, looks good.
Later, after that's all set up, you can go ahead and put the other, maybe a couple planks of retaining wall on that second abutment wall up here. Okay. Looks pretty good. So you really should let that set up and dry, because the next step is all the bracing, all the sway bracing.
What is a sway brace? Well, if you remember when we talked about the bents, how all the cross braces on there prevent it from shifting left to right. Like I explained before that, usually this is in a valley, and the valley is a wind tunnel. So it's going to try and make everything shift a little bit. Well, okay, now we're going to go the other direction and put all the cross bracing on, because if you didn't do that, you have the potential of a domino effect where each of the bents is going to lean over, especially when the weight of the locomotive goes across it. So now you want to put this triangles on there to make it strong. This is sort of along the idea of doing a gusset in a corner, which will make the thing square. So we want to keep it square. So what we're going to do is put all these braces on. Now, these are a decorative thing, okay? You don't need a whole bunch to serve the purpose of it. So I've seen big ones like this where every other one has them in, and then alternatively on the next level, and all different designs. And I think what we want to do here is we want to keep the middle section at the bottom open, because there's a little stream or something going to go through there. So Maureen's going to take you through about putting the sway braces on.
Mm-hmm. So the sway braces are your 3x10s. So you hopefully will have them all colored. And it's just a matter of repetition and cutting these pieces. You'll see on your drawing, on the side view drawing, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections across. They should be all the same size sway brace. If you've followed the drawing, okay, if your bents are placed exactly where the bents are on the drawing, you should be good to cut all your sway bracing right on the drawing. But if you've changed, maybe wanted to put the bents a little closer in one spot or a little bit further away in another, then you're going to have to fit your bracing on between your bents and figure out that measurement for yourself. Okay, I made my trestle to be exactly as the drawing states, so I could cut all my sway braces exactly as the drawing. So it's just really a matter of putting your 3x10, sorry, on the sway brace, any one of those top ones, and cutting it. And you'll know that all the rest of the sway braces on the top story of this trestle are the same size. So you need to cut,
20 of them.
yeah, 20 of them total, because you're going to do this sway bracing on each side of the trestle. Okay, so I just went ahead and cut all mine today. I used Al Collins Ultimation Slicer, and it was great. It was really easy. It went really quickly. But if you don't have that, just make sure you take the piece that you cut originally and use that as your guide. Keep that one as your guide and just continue to cut 19 more of them. Okay. The second story is a different size. It's a little bit smaller because that story is a little bit lower in height than the second story. So just make sure that you cut those to the size here. These two braces that are on the outer side of the trestle,
They're long.
they're long, they're quite long. So you need to cut 4 of those at the longer length. Okay. And the center, it's just the first story, I'm sorry, of the trestle that has the little shorter braces. You know, you might have to cut 12 of them if you're doing all the areas between the bents. If you're taking one of the bents out, of course, you only have to do 4.
8
or 8, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. So that's it. I'll show you how I'm gonna glue these.
And one of the things about the design of these, just before you go there, Maureen,
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
if you look at the drawing, you'll see that this is the one that goes inside. This is the one that goes outside. So it's kind of advisable to do them all the same. So the ones going this way are all on the inside, and the ones going the other way are all on the outside. And then to keep that consistent, when you do the other side of the bridge, make sure the back ones are all this way and the front ones are all this way. That's what will make it look right.
Mhm. So
'Cause if one's out of place, if one's the opposite way, you'll see it right away.
I usually, of course, have to do the inside sway braces first.
Yeah, it's easier to do those first because then the outside one is not in the way.
Mhm. So I'm just gonna dab a little bit of glue on each end of this brace. This is going inside first. It's good to have a little tweezers handy. Can you aim that right on there? Okay, so I'm gonna put this outer one on. It's basically
Might have to
Okay.
slide it through.
yeah. I don't know if you can see that. So I've got it in place. It's resting on that brace.
That's resting on that brace.
Yeah, right here.
And uptight on the other side.
Yeah. Just let me get it down there. Okay, so just hold it there for a few seconds. Hopefully it'll set up a little. So you can go along and you can put all the inside ones on first if you want to. I'll put another one on the inside. A little bit of glue on each end again. And inside. There we go. If you have glue that's splurging out, just wipe it off with your tweezers. Okay.
So that's going to be your homework for tonight, is to do all those braces.
I'll put a couple of the outer ones on. So again, just touch a bit of glue on each end. And go back here.
Yep.
Perfect. Oh, now see, this one's a little bit longer. So I'm going to cut that. Okay. I'm gonna take slicer here. And just
This is the automation slicer. This is brand new on the market. We're the first ones to get it because this is a prototype. It's actually it's not a chopper, it's a slicer. It's a chisel blade that comes down and actually chisels a very sharp edge on one side. It's not like the chopper. The chopper will deteriorate each side it's cutting. This does not.
So you
I
have
don't
to,
know if Al's on. He might be able to talk about it later.
okay, so I've got that. Even though I followed the drawing, this one turned out a little bit longer. So you still have to kind of fit.
Cut and fit.
Yeah. Okay, so how can we see that? Okay, there we go.
We're doing good.
All right. So that's the outer one of that. I'll do another one. I'm just going to test it out here, make sure that one's okay. So we'll put a little bit of glue again. Going to take off the so what you need to do is just continue this on both sides. If you want a little space here in the middle, if a creek's running through there, don't do that. Or if the creek's over here, don't do that one. And what you're going to do then is put in all your NBWs, your nut bolt washer castings, and you'll see those on your drawing, all the little black dots. So on your bridge, it would be on each end of the sway brace. Of course, not the inner ones. We can't see those, so we're not going to try and do calisthenics to get those in. So just at the end of each of your sway braces, put the NBWs. And just continue this process right across. Okay, both sides.
So I would guess that's about 8 to 10 hours of homework.
Yeah, maybe not quite that long, but it'll take you a little bit for sure. So you can continue to do that. And then what we're going to do next week is do the platform. Build that platform, and it's pretty much done. And just go back and we'll do a little bit about staining and finishing it up and touching up all your cut ends. And I think that's it. It's looking pretty good. Yeah.
Starting to look like a different trestle.
Yeah. Any tips that we can give them? I don't know that there's anything that makes
don't be
it,
in a hurry. Like
Yeah.
let the glue set before you start going too far into it. Like yeah, we went right to the sway braces here tonight, but you should let the girts dry. That'll make the whole assembly rigid so that you can work with it without fear of it shifting.
Yeah. Any questions?
Well, Rick, Marie, thank you so very much for tonight. Look forward to your segment next time. I think it's coming along beautifully.
Well, thank you.
It's starting to look like it's supposed to.
Absolutely, looks great to me. I tell you, you're doing such a beautiful job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, now let's turn to Martin Brechbiel, MMR, for his build along of the Leadville Designs Maintenance of Weight O-Scale car. Martin, welcome.
Evening, Jim. Let's see. Okay. All good?
All good.
All right. Well, we'll pick up where we left off last week, where I probably left you in total utter chaos or something akin to it. But hopefully you muddled your way through and figured out how to get it.
Oh yeah, okay.
Hopefully you
what?
figured out how to get
That
to where you
image was
wanted.
inside out.
What wasn't right?
It wasn't. This is what we could see
Only for
here.
Rick
but
and
the one
Maureen.
over-
Rick, I think you need to mute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so move along. When we stopped last time, we just about finished up the underbody brake systems and all that, and good fun installing that. I'm hoping there were no serious injuries at this end of that segment. I'm hoping you didn't incur any at your end. If so, first aid isn't you're on your own. I can't do it electronically. So we have to shape the train line where we left off. We didn't have the train line in place. There's a nice diagram. It shows you where to bend it, how to bend it. Put this nice little S curve in it. Can't quite see it in the slide, but there's a hole right about here and right about here in the needle beams. You were supposed to ream those out so you could make sure that the train line would fit into it. It's hard to ream it out once it's glued in place. But you test feed it just for fun, just to make sure you can see there's where the hole is. It actually slides right below these levers. And it's a snug little fit, but it's good. It fits in nicely and you can slide it through into place. And that's what it looks like once you get it in. They give you a lot more wire than you actually need. There's another couple inches over here, a couple inches over to the other side. But you get into about where it belongs per the diagram that's provided. A drop of CA on the inside, outside of the needle beams. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to slide around. It's going to stay right where you left it. Okay, so I did say I went back and soldered a lot of these linkages. One of the rare times where I actually use a soldering iron. I usually use a small torch, but just to get some of these things from not flopping around. I was finding if I picked it up, things fell out, moved around, little pieces of wire flying into space, really kind of annoying. So it's easy to solder it in, small soldering iron, a little bit of flux, a little bit of millimeter solder. It's in where it needs to be. And I only soldered a couple, I think 4, to make sure that the rest wouldn't wander around on me. You could solder everything except this one. It's hard to solder to plastic. Train lines in, and I added this little piece here, which is a mystery, as opposed to from the instructions. You're kind of on your own figuring out where and what that is in the parts. But process of elimination, there's only so many things that could fit there, and only so many things on the sprue that could actually do the job. So don't panic when you can't find it. And if you don't find it and you can't put it in, not many people are going to notice it unless they flip the car over and stare looking for it. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's rare that I put those connections in anyhow in my own builds. Okay, truss rods. Got to put the queen posts in, the shaft diameter. This is where that dial micrometer comes in handy, because the drill bit size that the instructions give you is wrong in 0 and 3. It looks like that's the drill bit size for the HO kit. So it's always wise to measure things before you drill the holes. Find out what you really need. So I just pick a drill bit that's a couple of thousandths larger. Give it enough room to go in without a lot of pressure and pain, because you don't want to break these pieces off. These queen posts are on a sprue, but I think they're 3D printed, because they don't look like any styrene parts I've ever seen before. They may be a little more brittle. You only get 8. You only need 8. But if you have one fly off into space, you're down to 7, because you're never going to find it. So be very, very careful cutting these apart. I cut them off the sprue at a diagonal. If you cut things off at a diagonal, it makes it easier to go into the hole you drill. You have a nice sharp point to give you a lead into the hole. And this is where that little oak flooring cutting block that I mentioned comes in handy. Granted, if you haven't put down your own oak floors, you probably don't have this piece of wood, but you find something similar to it or make something similar to it. And the reason why it's useful is it has this little pocket, this groove underneath here for airflow. Well, that little groove is a great place to let these little pieces overhang, and you can hold it with your finger, cut it with a scalpel at an angle, and it drops down into the groove, doesn't go flying off into space. Then you can pick it up with the tweezers and install it wherever you want. Just a small little thing. I keep these blocks of wood around just for that purpose. And being oak, you can flip them over and cut against them and never hurt them, probably cutting basswood or balsa, whatever you're doing, or even styrene. The oak will outlast those things. So, got the holes drilled. You can drill these by hand. I actually use my battery-powered Dremel because I've gotten terribly lazy with putting up with pin vices. Drop them in. I dip them in, you know, a drop of CA, drop them in a hole. There's a little bit of friction. That's good enough. A CA will set. They're not going to go anywhere. You do want to get them in the right way so that they are lined up per the diagram and in the instructions again. And I used a number 66 bit for anybody who cares. And just having brake levers just hanging in space seemed unseemly to me. So I actually went back and I had a pair of leftover Grantline stirrup steps, and I dropped those in over these things just to hold them down because I just thought it made it look better. Clutters it up like it should be cluttered up, but something had to hold those levers. I just don't think the connecting beams were adequate. And just another angle to show you, these things are actually almost clear. So I don't know what they're actually made out of, but they are they have a different feel to them than styrene when you're handling them. So be careful with them. Don't have them go off into space. Okay. Truss rods. These are brass wire in this case. This is not going to be my usual surgical silk method that I use for my own cars. The kit provides 25 thousandths brass wire for the truss rods. It provides Grantline turnbuckles, which are cored for 20 thousandths wire. I don't know about you, but you usually can't put 5 pounds in a 1 pound bag. So 25 thousandths brass wire doesn't fit in a 20 thousandths hole. So get out your drill, make sure it's got, you very carefully ream these out. Don't split them, don't break them, don't tear them. You only get 4. And if you tear them, putting them back together with a little 10X solvent or MEK is no fun because you'll probably melt the whole turnbuckle at this scale. I would have liked to have had brass ones. I don't have any more brass ones in my own stock left over, so I could solder it all together. But the styrene works okay. But be careful with the drill bit. You want to get at least 25 thousandths. 26, 27 would be better because you don't want this to be pressured and break the turnbuckle. Okay, forming brass wire for truss rods. Well, it's got to go under. They're not long enough to go out to the ends like I normally run mine. They sort of just mysteriously end underneath the bolster. So you're going from the bolster up to the top of the queen post, laterally across, and then back down, which gets you this shape. And you can form it very carefully right in place. So you need 4 of them, you make 4 of them. It's very simple. And you just bend them by hand, bend them with a pair of pliers, bend them with a piece of flat, a pair of flat pliers if you can, if you have them. The needle noses will work fine, but they're a little trickier on keeping this whole thing in a single plane, which you do want to do. Once you have your 4 wires, well, you could put them all in place and then cut them in half and take a section out, or you can cut them in half and take a little bit out. You want to take a little bit out because you're going to connect this end to this end with the turnbuckle. So you need a little room in there. Otherwise, you're just going to have a piece of wire through the middle of your turnbuckle, and there should be some opening space in between there. Okay, so just to show you how I muddled my way through this. 1 is in here. A little drop of CA holds this end in place. A little drop of CA holds that end in place. You can sight across this to make sure you have them at the right orientation from 2 different dimensions. That gets them aligned. Slide on 1 turnbuckle all the way in, then slide it back across to capture the other brass wire. A little bit of CA at each end with a micro tip application. It's not going anywhere, and you have that nice little gap in your turnbuckle space. And the joy of all joys, you get to do it 3 more times after that. So its entertainment factor is huge. Okay. You get all 4 of them in. You see that little gap there. You can see the cylinder behind it. So you know you got that done right. These are some of the brass bits for the bolsters. These came out of the etched brass fret. You cut them out with a pair of fine scissors, free them up, clean up the excess off the side, and drum sander or file, like I described last week. These 4 pieces go in these 4 locations. You're supposed to apply them straight across and then bend them down in place. Okay, that sounds easy enough to do, and it's only 10 thousandths brass, but I can assure you, bending that at a 90-degree angle is not really that easy to do from that angle when it's glued to a piece of wood. It's actually easier to bend it first. I tried it, and you have to come back and you have to fiddle with it and hit it with a pair of pliers and force the angle and clean up the 90-degree bend. But you can get it done. A little AC, a little CA, a little bit of goo. Actually, in this case, just the CA, and they were locked into place. These are the bolster pieces. They're in the fret. You snip them free, clean them up to be installed. And that's what they look like after they're in place with a little bit of goo and CA. The CA actually is out on the end. It's goo and CA on the center, wood to brass. I guess you could have soldered this here if you're really, really careful and not burning the wood. The CA underneath that might have been a little messy. So you could deviate from this and get a little adventurous with a soldering iron if you really, really felt like it. We're more daring than me. And that's where I'm going to stop this week. We've got about 99% of the underbody done now. There's a few other odds and ends here and there, but we'll come back to that in the future. You've got a lot of work to do. I don't know how many people are building along, or where we were, how far you got along from last week. I concede that this kit is something that I would work on a little bit, let everything glue dry, let everything set, come back in an hour or 3. And do this at a very comfortable pace, as there's no rush with this. Getting it all right and in the right places is worth taking your time. So I'm going to stop there. And if there's any questions, yeah.
Yeah, Martin, I've got a question. I'm
Yes.
not building it, but out of curiosity.
For
With
shame. Daring to ask a question and you're not even building it. Appalling.
It's a question for the masses.
Ah.
With the 25,000th wire and the 20,000th hole in the turnbuckle, instead of reaming it out, could you just, go to your workbench and get some 20,000th wire, and would that still work in the queen posts?
If you have it, why am I being asked to start my video? I don't have a video. Yeah, if you have 20,000 wire, but if you've only got the kit in front of you and you've not done this before, you may not have a tub of wire from 10 to 33 thousandths, or in my case, 10 to 60 thousandths, laying about in your shop.
Got it, thanks.
And it's interesting, it's they supply this, but we're going to run out of wire later, which is kind of a tricky part of this. So yeah, you're going to need to go get some wire. But ultimately, that is going to be a problem. But yeah, or what you could do is you could sand down the tips of it very, very carefully where the turnbuckles go. Well, 5 thousandths with a piece of sanding paper is not much work. You don't need to remove much to get the turnbuckle over. Any others? I see I got a note here. It says resin printed, it looks like. So I assume that's referring to the queen posts from our conductor.
Yes.
Yeah, well, printed is printed. That's cool. I mean, I've not seen these kind of small parts in O-scale, and they look rather good. I've used a lot of different queen posts in the last 20 years from different places, and These are probably as good as any. So you can make them. I don't know what the cost of a sprue of those, of these are 2 sprues actually, I guess, of those are versus a bag from say Grantline or Tichy. But it's nice to see different. Ah, that's what you wanted. Me, my camera. Okay.
Well, Martin, thanks so very much for tonight. You're really doing a great job. I do appreciate it so much.
Yeah, well, we'll see you next week, and hopefully everybody will have caught up, and if we're lucky, they've snuck ahead.
Thanks again.
Okay.
Well, now I want to introduce a gentleman, David Woodhead. David is an ON3 modeler. And frankly, I think he's the first one in ON3 that we've had on the show. But he's got a beautiful layout. David, welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I had a great talk with Phil the other night, and just talking about what to present. And I showed him a bunch of slides. I had a sort of a layout tour kind of thing that I showed him, and we thought it might be an interesting idea just to show kind of background and how, in a way, how your personal history influences your modeling, and how you can use that to keep perspective, I guess, is what the thing is here. You know, you want to stand back and have an overview at times of your modeling and of where you want to go with your layout. I think we've all had those little moments where you want to change scales, or you're wondering what to build next, or you're wondering what the next adventure is. So I'm just going to share my screen here, and I'll just get going. Here we go. Should be coming up. There we go. And F5. Whoops, that's not it. Okay, slideshow. I'll just do the slideshow, and hopefully you'll be seeing this. Are you seeing that full?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, very good.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so this is my railway. This is I'm sort of taking excerpts of my layout tour, and I just sort of want to show, in a way, how I see what my favorite things are and how I can achieve those things in my modeling, because I think we all have a vision of what we want our layouts to be. I like to think of what's a place that I would like to be. Like where would I like to stand trackside, and when? And so one of my favorites is, from the look of things here, and here is sort of around the turn of the last century, say in the 1890s up to the First World War. There's sort of a golden age of railroading, and my choice is short line and specifically narrow gauge lines, common carrier lines. You know, there's a lot of industrial narrow gauge that you can look at, but mine, my personal vision includes passenger operations and mixed freights. So this is sort of my story in a way, but I hope it could help everybody kind of solidify their vision in what they would like, where they'd like to go with their modeling and with their layouts. Because sometimes you just got to stand back and have a look. So first of all, I'll show you my layout. This is my messy basement, and a lot of the photographs, of course, will be close-ups. But I'd show you the reality first. This is the reality. There's a ton of stuff in here. I don't even have really skirting here, but that's looking left as you come in the layout room, and that's looking right as you come in the layout room door. Here's an overall track plan. You can see it's very simple. There's 3 towns over there on the left, in the upper right, and in the lower right. And the center of the room I've kept clear of layout, because it's a major work area. So I have all kinds of room to work on projects. I don't have to sort of squeeze into a tiny workbench. I do have, I think, there's my cursor. Under here is my original workbench, which was actually my dad's old desk. But I also have a bigger workbench here for large projects, I have smaller projects here, including a lathe and my automation sander and things like that. And then over here, there's also an area for the drill press and stuff. It's on a shelf over here. So going back, this is show you where I'm coming from. Here's me in this is me here in 1956. My dad probably took this, and that's my sister. And this was the, this is a CN, a Canadian National Museum train, which toured Canada at that time. And some of these locomotives still, well, all of them still exist. This is sort of mothballed at the moment at the Museum of Science and Technology. And I would love to build an O-scale model of this in standard gauge of this locomotive at some point. Here's a little later. I'm about 11 here, and Hill City, South Dakota. 1963 was a big turning point for me in my modeling. And at the age of 11, you know, this means a lot. Hill City, South Dakota, they had 3-foot gauge, which I had never really seen before in real life. And also in the summer of 1963, there was a narrow gauge special issue of Model Railroader magazine, which totally turned my crank. It had articles on by Jack Alexander, who was one of the pioneers in the late 40s, early 50s. It mentions of Big Level, which is an area of Pennsylvania, of Maine narrow gauge. All these things all of a sudden opened up to me and have fascinated me ever since. So at my parents' basement, I built this HO standard gauge. This photo is about 1973, and I've been working on it for a while, but you can sort of see where I'm at here. I've got the goldenrod trees, right? I think we've all done that. And a few scratch-built buildings here, like very simple scratch-built buildings, and these bridges would be scratch-built at that time. And how old was I then? About, I was 20. So this is, I got more seriously into HON3, and I had a fairly interesting layout here with card order operation and 6 or 7 locomotives in operation at any time. Sort of mix of kit built, like that's a kit, that's a Revel barn that I use as sort of, I raised it up and used it as a kind of a car barn. These are scratch built background buildings up here. Then I had kids around 1990 and got into garden railways. So the next decade and a half, I was seriously into garden railways. But as you can see, I'm still in the sort of backwoods common carrier kind of line. And I was even in garden railways with that railroad. So all along, I've been collecting books. I think the first one in this collection is this BB&K, Bradford, Bardell, and Kinsua, which is up around Bradford, Pennsylvania. And despite the fact that I live in Toronto, and I grew up in Montreal, now I live in Toronto in Canada, these lines in Pennsylvania are fascinating to me as the common carrier narrow gauge. So you've got Tuscarora Valley, Waynesburg and Washington, another Waynesburg and Washington, Ohio River and Western over in Ohio, Newport and Sherman's Valley, and the Tionesta Valley. This is the Pennsylvania logging series, which is an amazing inspiration. So these are my inspirations, and the kind of thing that really turns my crank. I just really love looking at the pictures in these books and the images that they conjure and the feel of the time and place. So here's the Waynesburg and Washington. This is one of my favorites. I love this picture. This was recently colorized. There's a Waynesburg and Washington Facebook page, if anybody's interested. And these guys are pretty active in restoring one of these locomotives. I'm not sure if it's this one, but it's a little 260 that was preserved. It steamed for a while in the 80s. And they're working on it now. They've just rebuilt their engine house in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania. But I love this picture. First of all, it's nicely colorized, very tasteful. But also this platform, this switch stand, the building in the background, the way that the track curves and the way the hill comes down, all this stuff is really inspiring to me for modeling. Over across the Ohio River, you've got the Ohio River in Western, and there's a great book on that called Hidden Treasures. This is from that. And again, very interesting stub switches, all of this wood platforming going on here that these guys are standing on. And not to mention the horse and horse-drawn wagon there, but probably taking people to a hotel or something like that. New Berlin and Winfield is a very tiny line. It didn't last for very long, and it was a little later. Right in the middle of Pennsylvania. The West River Railroad in Vermont was another 3-footer. Now out of Brattleboro, Vermont, it just went up a valley, got washed out by floods all the time, was never a great success. That's the kind of thing I like, believe it or not. And Chateaugay Railway in Upper New York State, coming west out of Plattsburgh, New York. Here's a couple of pictures from that. I went to the museum in showing that west of Plattsburgh. Great little place with some very enthusiastic curators there. So I did a little research. There's no book on that one. So here's how I really incorporate all this. I guess it's research. It sounds onerous, but it is kind of research. It's just that I do it for fun. So here's out of the Newport and the Shermans Valley book. That's the title, Narrow Gauge in the Shermans Valley. I really like this picture for many reasons. First of all, there's kind of snow on the ground, and nobody models that. I haven't yet either, but I really like this engine house. Just the shape of the doors, these narrow windows above there, the 2 chimneys above the track. There's obviously a locomotive in there with smoke coming out. And also this unique station here with these porches all around. And so I freelanced this engine house from that photograph with adapting Grant Line windows, and scratch built the doors. Well, the whole thing is scratch built, really. These are Grant Line windows, but I narrowed them down. I don't think that other picture really shows the side windows. No, you can't see them. But there's enough pictures in the book to get a feel of it. No dimensions, but I kind of had the dimensions from how big it had to be to fit my layout, because these are building flats right against the wall. So I definitely knew how wide it was going to be. It was probably a little narrower than the prototype. I knew how high it was going to be based on how a locomotive fits into there and guessing the angle of the roof. So I took that photograph and just freelanced my own version of it. And that's, I feel like I achieved something there. It was really a great feeling. Here's back to the Waynesburg in Washington. Here's a nice trestle scene. I really like this scene. There's not a train in it, but just the amount of foliage, the way that the trestle is a very low trestle across this little valley, and the way that the road curves into it. I really enjoy that scene. So I used that and built this scene here. The road, actually, this picture is a little misleading because the road doesn't actually dead end there. The road continues around and up this little valley. Whoa, that's the next slide. Okay, so here's where you can use your 100-line trestle and maybe adapt it to whatever scene. I scratch built this just for adapting various photographs from the books and rough dimensions. To mimic the Bonham trestle on the Waynesburg in Washington. But that was the inspiration, the road, the curving road, the low trestle. We're not talking Colorado here. This is Ohio and Pennsylvania. So here's another scene. Now, I talked about this a few weeks ago, but this is Van Kirk, Pennsylvania. And again, a scene, I just love the way that this scene is composed with the big hill in the background, the curving track, the little whitewash retaining wall, and the waiting shelter there. So I sort of adapted some of those elements for my layout. I found a place where I could do that, where the layout of the track was more or less similar. It gave me an opportunity to build a retaining wall, fit in the building. I added these steps because otherwise there was no way to get people up there. And there's sort of a parking and loading area down here outside of the picture. So I'm sort of definitely taking those elements and freelancing them. So one thing about freelancing in this kind of world is how do you develop a locomotive roster with such an unusual prototype? So some of these locomotives, these little Heislers, are you can find those in the Pennsylvania Logging Series books, very similar to this, except that I really wanted this curve to the tank and this little curve above the windows that the slightly later Heislers had. It's like starting about 1905, I guess. So I took the Bachmann, which I got as a sort of a basket case at one of the railroad shows around here just before COVID, man. It was just, I squeezed it in there and I got it for a good price because it was, it had missing parts and all of that. So I rebuilt the tender with brass and some miscellaneous parts and grab irons. And these are Archer rivets I'd never used before. So that was a bit of an experiment. So before I painted it, I put on these go on like a decal. Really interesting product. So that was something I wanted to do out of those books. I didn't include a prototype picture, but they look pretty much like this. Here's another one that that are really, these locomotives are just beautiful. 1870s Porter-Bell 060s as road locomotives. These are not switchers. And all kinds of roads had them. They had them in Martha's Vineyard and the Peach Bottom, which is a predecessor to the Ma and Pa in Pennsylvania. And so I got a bunch of parts from Leadville shops, actually, from Bill Meredith. And I had one of these Argent Lumber Company porters. This is also a porter, but much later with rounded domes. But the boiler shape and the mechanism were perfect. So you can see the wheelbase, the wheel spacing and everything is very similar to what I wanted to do. So using these photographs and information, both from Bill Meredith and other plans and things, I sort of went to town and I worked on it. I hadn't really done much brass locomotive modifying to this extent before. And there we go. There it is on the left. As I finished it, it's not quite there yet. I haven't lettered it for one thing. But it was one of those things where you have something you really want to achieve and you just figure out how you're going to do it. And I have some more parts. I'm probably going to build another Porter-Bell or another small locomotive of this kind, maybe an 040 or 240. A lot of the lines, including the Waynesburg in Washington, started with these tiny locomotives before they went up as, to the bigger moguls and 280s in some cases, 460s. This other one on the right, this is a 1964 Max Gray model. It looks like I've had a lot of detail, but honestly, it was almost everything is there. The only thing I added were these little sort of eyebrow decorations over the windows and a little bit of extra trim. Everything else is from the 1964 brass locomotive, which I just find amazing. And being a Mason Bogie, the front truck, this is all swiveling so that there's a swivel here that sort of like a diesel truck, the whole thing swivels so that the pilot moves from side to side, as well as the rear truck. So that was another challenge. And it was one of those things, I found it on eBay and I went, I just got to have that. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But eventually this is what I did. I had some help from our friend Art Midwood on reworking the drive. So there's another goal achieved. Well, here's something, this is the future on the Madoc and North Hastings. And so anything goes. I don't know where it's going to take me next. So that's an introduction. I'd like to continue on. We do have a date for when I'm on here again. It's in about a month. And I'll take you on more of a layout tour then and show you more of my layout and how I developed that. So there we go. Oh yeah, I've got one more little bit. Can I just show you one more little bit?
Sure.
Hold on. There we go. And here we go. This is leaving town. And I just have to show you this. So we're heading back down to the town of Windham. And that is the end.
David, thank you so very much. I look forward to seeing your railroad next month.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure. That was fun.
Thank you.
Great to get this together. Thanks for the initiative.
Well, I appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Well, now I'd like to turn to our featured modeler, J.B. Fenderweight. has a hobby shop called Sidetracks Hobbies. JB, I talked to him, probably 2 months ago now. And I was really impressed with him. JB has his hobby shop. He's also a machinist. And he also makes brass ON3 locomotives. So I think he was a person I really wanted to meet. And several of the people on this show sent me an email and said that we ought to have him on the show. And I'm so glad that we could get him here tonight. JB, welcome.
Jim, unless he's logged on with somebody else's account, I haven't seen him.
Okay.
Yeah, Jim, I can't find him.
Yeah, I can't find him either, Jim.
Well,
Chris Blackmore here.
he may have a health issue or something, then I'm so sorry.
I do know that there's some issues going on within his family, and I contacted him about 2 hours before the show. Haven't heard back from him, quite frankly.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry that he couldn't be here tonight. I was really looking forward to it, but maybe we can have him on another time. And if you do talk to him, tell him that he's welcome. And if you'll give me an email or give me a call, then we'll schedule another time for him.
Will do.
Thank you so much. Well, I think that may wrap us up this evening, a little bit differently than I anticipated we would. Next time, we've got, I think, a really great show.
Jim, can I just talk to David for a minute?
Sure.
David, you brought a memory to us, okay? And that's Hill City.
Hill City. Oh, yeah.
Maybe I can do a little commercial here. Hill City is the hill that goes opposite of Mount Rushmore. So it goes up the mountain and down the other side to Mount Rushmore. And it was really unique to me because on the way up from Hill City, it's dual gauge to the top of the mountain.
That's right.
And at the top of the mountain, the narrow gauge has a big Y to come back down. And then the standard gauge goes over the mountain to Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I've ever been on a mallet.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They have a mallet now. But do they still have the narrow gauge? Do they still have the narrow gauge rails? Because I don't think they've run any narrow gauge steam for a long time.
No, the rails are still there. Last time we were there, about maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah, I was there. Well, I was there in '63, and then I was there again in, let me see, what would that be? December '77. I can tell you exactly. And there was a lot of cool stuff there.
The museum is really good.
And CNS business car 911 was there, and all kinds of trucks and parts, and man, it was amazing. I shot a lot of pictures there, let me tell you.
Yeah. I just wanted to tell you that you sparked a memory.
Another person who I had this conversation with is Ralph Beaumont. Do you know Ralph Beaumont? He's he wrote Rails to Tidewater, like some of the.
Oh yeah, yes, I know who you mean.
Rail history books. And he's not so much a modeler, but he was in Hill City, maybe even the same year that I was. So, it's interesting because you don't see a lot about it in the press. What I mean? It's not like something that everybody, it's not like Colorado. It's not like the trauma or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people like you and me have been there and were influenced by it. I think it's very good.
I actually bought a lot of stuff in their little museum and gift shop.
Do you have Mildred Fielder's book on Black Hills, Railroads of the Black Hills? Ooh.
No.
Oh, that's a good one. I recommend it.
Okay.
It's probably an eBay thing or something. It's been out of print for a long time.
Yeah.
That really turned my crank too. Yeah, totally.
I just thought I'd mention it.
I love it. Yeah, nice.
Well, listen, next time we've got another full show. Rick and Marie Hunter will be back building their trestle. Martin Brechbiel, MMR, will be back with his build along of the Leadville Designs kit. Bill Davis will start a build along of the Tobacco Barn by Rail Scale Models. David Woodhead will be back talking about his ON3 layout. And our featured modeler is Bruce Nicholson from Seaport Models. This was a company that makes model boats and was recommended by one of the modelers on the show. And I'm so happy that he was able to agree to this date, and looking forward to having a little something different for you for next time. So thanks so much for coming. We really do appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. Most importantly, I hope you learned something.